You grew up thinking you were being raised, but you were being programmed. To please, to comply, to stay small. They called it manners. They called it discipline. But it was fear, dressed in politeness. Fear of being rejected, punished, abandoned. You learned how to be quiet when your soul wanted to scream. You learned how to smile when your spirit was breaking. You learned how to say yes when every part of you whispered no. And they called you a good child. Nietzsche warned us, morality, as society teaches it, is not about virtue, it's about control. You weren't taught how to feel. You were taught how to behave, to follow the rules, to stay in line, to become acceptable, even if that meant becoming a stranger to yourself. And now you wake up every day with a quiet discomfort, a numb ache, not a loud pain, but a silent emptiness that you can't explain. You followed the path. You did everything right. But something still feels wrong, because you were never taught to live. You were taught to perform. Your dreams were replaced by duties. Your voice was replaced by approval. And your truth? It was buried beneath the mask they applauded. But Nietzsche whispered something different. Become who you are. And who you are might be the person you've spent your whole life hiding. Think about it. When was the last time you said what you really thought? When was the last time you acted without fear of being misunderstood, disliked, or abandoned? This is the first lie of life, that obedience is goodness. It's not. Obedience is safety, and safety is not the same as freedom. You played your role so well that now, you've forgotten who you were before the role began. You don't even know where the mask ends and your face begins. But the soul always remembers that unease inside you, that quiet rebellion. It's your soul knocking, asking if you're ready to come home. Because here's the truth. A well-behaved life can still be an unlived life, and a quiet heart can still be a buried one. Nietzsche didn't want you to be strong for the world. He wanted you to be real for yourself. And being real starts by unlearning the first lie, that your worth depended on your obedience. It never did. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to wake up. They told you that time heals all wounds. But time doesn't heal what you refuse to feel. It doesn't erase pain, it hides it. Until life makes you bleed from the same place. Again. You think you've moved on. You think it's over. But your patterns say otherwise. Why do you attract the same kind of people? Why do you sabotage joy when it finally arrives? Why do you feel numb when everything looks fine? Because your pain never left. It just changed clothes. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's it. What you call bad luck may just be a wound in disguise. What you call just how I am might be a defense, not a personality. You don't have trust issues. You have betrayal you never unpacked. You're not cold. You're just frozen. And freezing is how the soul survives when it's not allowed to grieve. You see, the mind buries pain to protect you. But the body remembers. Your jaw tightens when someone raises their voice. Your stomach turns when love gets too close. You call it instinct, but it's trauma. And trauma doesn't disappear with time. It waits, in silence, in repetition, in the people you choose, in the words you avoid, in the emotions you silence. You don't choose to repeat the past, but unless you face it, you will repeat it. Because pain ignored becomes pattern, and pattern becomes identity, and identity becomes fate. You live the same story in different costumes, different names, same wound, different seasons, same ache. You keep hoping the next job, the next partner, the next city will feel different. But healing doesn't happen outside. It begins inside. The truth is, you don't need more time. You need more truth. You need to stop running, to stop pretending you're fine, to stop managing pain, and start listening to it. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the part of you that still believes you're worth healing. It screams only when it's been ignored too long. And when it screams, we panic. We label it depression, anxiety, emptiness. We try to silence it with habits, distractions, even people. But the soul will not be silenced. Nietzsche once wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." What if your chaos is not a flaw, but a signal that something deep inside is still alive, still fighting, still hoping you'll stop pretending and finally feel the grief you buried when no one was listening, feel the anger you swallowed to keep peace, feel the fear you shamed into silence. Because what you feel, you can finally heal. But what you avoid, you become. So maybe fate isn't written in the stars. Maybe it's written in your wounds. And if you don't read them, they'll keep writing your story for you. You weren't taught to love. You were taught to perform for it. To be quiet when you were loud. To smile when you were hurt. To be good when you were breaking. They said they loved you, but only when you were easy to handle. Only when you made them proud. Only when you didn't make them uncomfortable. That's not love. That's transaction. And yet, it shaped you. You became the peacekeeper, the achiever, the strong one, the one who never needed too much. But here's the tragedy. You had to abandon parts of yourself to be accepted. So now as an adult you call it love when someone needs you, but panic when someone sees you. You crave connection, but fear exposure. You long to be held, but don't know how to be soft. You want intimacy, but only know how to perform. Because somewhere along the line you learned, to be loved you must be less of yourself. And so you wear the mask, the one that smiles politely, the one that says, "I'm fine," when you're not, the one that keeps people at just the right distance, close enough to not feel alone but far enough to not get hurt. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to survive in society. But the danger of the mask is this: if you wear it long enough, you forget there's someone underneath, and that someone is tired of pretending, tired of being whatever others need, tired of love that feels like a performance. Nietzsche didn't preach comfort, he preached confrontation. He would have asked, "Who are you when you stop trying to be loved? Who are you without the mask?" Because real love doesn't demand that you shrink. It doesn't punish your depth. It doesn't run from your pain. Real love stands, even when you're messy, even when you're angry, even when you're broken. But you'll never find it if you keep showing people a version of you that doesn't even exist. You're not the easy one. You're not the strong one. You're not low maintenance. You're human. And your need for love is not a flaw. It's a right. But first, you must unlearn the lie. That love must be earned. That affection must be deserved. That you have to perform to be safe. No, you don't. You were born worthy, even in your chaos, even in your fear, even in your truth. So take off the mask, bit by bit, tear by tear. The right people won't flinch. The wrong ones were just props in your performance anyway. Most people aren't afraid of dying. They're afraid of reaching the end and realizing they never really lived. They were alive, yes, heart beating, bills paid, calendar full. But inside, a quiet emptiness they couldn't name. Nietzsche warned us with a question few dare to face. If you had to live this life over and over again exactly as it is, would you be able to say yes? It's called the eternal return, not as superstition, but as confrontation. Could you endure your life if it had to repeat endlessly? Because if not, then maybe you're not living. Maybe you're just enduring. You've been postponing joy, postponing rest, postponing truth, telling yourself, "I'll slow down when things settle. I'll speak up when it's safer. I'll live for myself when they finally understand." But later is a fantasy, and the truth is brutal. Most people die in chapters they never had the courage to finish. You think you have time, but time has you. It watches you stay in relationships that kill your soul. It watches you swallow truths to protect comfort. It watches you betray your calling for the illusion of safety. And then one day, it asks, was this enough? Not enough for your boss. Not enough for your family. Not enough for your image. Enough for you. Can you say you lived, really lived, felt deeply, spoke honestly, burned bridges when peace became poison? Or did you spend your life as a shadow, tamed, managed, and quiet? There is no rehearsal. This is the stage. And every day you silence your truth as a line you didn't deliver. Nietzsche didn't want you to chase happiness. He wanted you to chase meaning. And meaning doesn't come from what's easy. It comes from what's true. You don't need a longer life. You need a deeper one where you stop waiting, stop pleasing, stop pretending. Because death isn't what ends life. Conformity does, cowardice does, living on autopilot does. The greatest tragedy is not that you will die, it's that you might never wake up. So wake up, rip the script, speak the truth, take the risk, live a life that wouldn't be torture to repeat, a life that, if the eternal return were true, you'd whisper, yes, I'd live this again. We crave truth. We say we want clarity, authenticity, awakening. But the truth, the real kind, it doesn't feel like peace at first. It feels like betrayal, like collapse, like the floor inside you giving out. Because truth doesn't come dressed in comfort. It comes with a hammer. It breaks the illusions you built to survive. It exposes the masks you believed were your face. It burns the bridges you never dared to cross. And it whispers, this was never who you were. Nietzsche once wrote, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. But without that destruction, you remain asleep, trapped in borrowed beliefs, living a life that fits, but never feels right. So when the truth comes, it hurts. It tells you your relationship was never love, it was dependence. It tells you your ambition wasn't purpose, it was a need to prove you're enough. It tells you your kindness wasn't compassion, it was a strategy to be needed so you wouldn't be left. That's the kind of truth that doesn't pat your back. It tears open your chest, but it's the only kind that can set you free. Because what lives in denial dies in repetition. You'll keep dating your wound, keep working from fear, keep performing in the theater of approval until something breaks. And maybe that breakdown you feared is just your real self breaking through. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But there is a cost. You will lose people. You will lose identities. You will lose the story that kept you safe, but small. And what you gain? Silence. At first, the silence that comes after the collapse, when you don't yet know who you are without the lies, when you're raw, unarmored, exposed. But then comes something else. Peace. Not the kind that's given by control, but the kind that comes from no longer needing to pretend. And power. Not dominance, but integrity. The strength of someone who knows their darkness and still chooses the light. So yes, the truth will shatter you, but only the parts that were never real to begin with. Let them fall, let them burn, and from the ashes, build a life that is yours. If you made it here, maybe you're ready. Ready to stop performing. Ready to stop postponing. Ready to stop hiding. Even from yourself. Because you don't need to be fixed, you just need to be true, and that is the beginning of freedom.